Car driver is Katie Grimes, silver medalist in the 400-meter IM at the Paris Games. We like to do this each and every race where we take you inside the world of one of the teams for a last moment pep talk. Well, it could not have been more tense and more just unpredictable last weekend for these guys. The 22 Joey Logano, they did everything they had to do, and then with the disqualification of Bowman, they're in the round of 8. Let's go inside and let's have a listen.
All right, boys. Back to the next round here. We know what we got to do from here. It's going to have to be perfect. Next 3 races. Good luck in there. Got it. We're ready. Have some fun. Everybody do their job. Execute.
It's a long season, Diff, and drivers, crew chiefs have so many distractions. 28 days, 4 weeks. You have 4 weeks to become a NASCAR champ. For some, like Joey Logano, a multi-time champ, it would be his 3rd. Let's see who can get the round started off correctly.
The South Point 400 is ready to roar into action. It's time to bring the action as they creep their way towards the green flag. Let's see what happens in Vegas. Great start, Christopher Bell.
You see what we talked about in the pre-race, already 2 and 3 wide further back in the pack. Trying to make ground. That's Chase Elliott, that white car all the way up against the wall about 10 rows back.
Last mile and a half track, Elliott started last after an issue and worked his way through the field to a respectable finish. So with that in mind, just a few races ago, let's see what he can do.
And now the nerves, the anticipation of being the playoffs settled in for the drivers. It's about getting the job done. 3 wide, that's the 24 of William Byron, kind of green and black and yellow there on the bottom. Joey Logano, that bright 22 Pennzoil car in the middle.
Alex Bowman, the bright purple Ally Chevrolet, sits 3rd. What must he be thinking? Was in the playoffs, and with the car being some 17 pounds light in post-race inspection, was DQ'd, and his playoffs dream and year ended last weekend after the Roval was finished. So all he can do now is go out with, fueled by a little bit of frustration and anger, and go out and get a race win.
Logano drops to the bottom right there off the right front fender. That's the 77 of Carson Hocevar. Been impressing this year. The 21-year-old continues to run well each and every week, running 8th, has all the talent, but he's young, inexperienced. I think some of the veterans have a little bit of nervous energy running around the 77 car.
Hunt Brothers Pizza on board for Joey Logano. Let's go for a little ride. We'll check back in with that. There's Hocevar with the 19 of Martin Truex Jr.
It just feels different, doesn't it, Diff? I mean, we're 4 laps in, but this feels different than the last round. The playoff cars are eyes forward.
6 in the top 10 to start this race. Solid performances in qualifying. They're ready for it. You've heard every one of the playoff drivers tell you, this is different now. Let's watch the 77, the Delaware Live Chevy. Spire Motorsports' Carson Hocevar gets up. Ooh.
And this is just a requirement of trying to stay in the gas. You can't just lift to lose momentum. But a nerve-wracking position if you're the 19 or the 22. You see the 77 now losing a spot to the 24. How about Chase Elliott attacking right now, that white with the blue 9 on the roof, already up 6 spots. This is a driver that has been the model of consistency, but maybe not the firepower. Of all the playoff drivers, he's the one with only 1 win. Every other playoff driver has multiple wins. Chase knows that it's time to be better than average, better than middle of the pack or middle of the top 10. He's going to look for those wins.
Starting 37th and has made up 6 positions. Let's find the 12. The reigning series champion in that Menards Ford for Team Penske. Here he is, Ryan Blaney.
This is a deep breath sort of start for the 12 car. The weekend didn't go good. Flat tire, backup car. We heard him in pre-race. Thank all of Team Penske for preparing this car. Don't try to make it up in the first 7 laps, Marty, right? Take a breath. Know what you are. You're the reigning champ. Have a little confidence. You'll get there.
And that was the message, Steve, this morning from Jonathan Hassler to Ryan Blaney. Listen, don't worry about stage 1 points. If we can get there by stage 2, that's fantastic. You mentioned all the work, Steve. They stayed until 9 p.m. last night, came in at 6:30 this morning to finish getting this car ready. And then a little simple radio transmission from Tim Feeder with a spotter to the crew chief, Jonathan Hassler. He said, no rubs on the car. Steve, when you have 0 laps on a car, how important is that little bit of information to say, hey, you got got it right, we're not having any issues so far.
Yeah, Marty, you build so many cars over the course of the year, and so many go to the racetrack without issue that you assume you could do it when it matters in the race. This is that accident, flat left rear tire, and a very hard hit on the driver's side. But just because you think you could prepare a car for the racetrack doesn't mean that everything will go smooth. So you definitely, your nerves are settled to know that the car's out there and no obvious mechanical issues.
There is a little bit of magic in television, but there's a lot of hard work. Just ask our man, the mayor, Jeff Burton, has had to come from down trackside all the way up here to the top of the stands. Welcome, mate.
A little bit of a sprint, but nothing compared to what these guys are having to do out here. It's warm here, it's slick. You can see the cars sliding around. Today's going to be a test. It is a wide racetrack, but it is not a racetrack with a ton of grip, Steve.
Jeff, you were just amongst them, amongst the competitors down on pit road. I told Lee here, I feel like it has a different feel. Only 10 laps in, you can tell where we're at in the playoffs. Did you feel that on pit road?
Oh, there's no question. You can see it in faces. You can see it in crew members' faces. You walk by, pit crews getting warmed up before the race. You see the nervous energy that they have. It's go time. You make it happen now or your year could be over.
Here's one guy who wants to be a champion in the 24, William Byron, up against a man who really wanted to stay in the playoffs, Martin Truex Jr., now down to his final 4 races.
How about the stats of these 8 drivers? We mentioned 177 wins, but 61% of the laps. They've led over 60% of the laps run. Everyone loves an underdog. Of course, it's a great story. But every once in a while, Diff, I don't want an underdog. Every once in a while, I want a toe-to-toe heavyweight battle.
Yeah.
I want to see punches traded. And I think that's what we're going to get for this entire round.
Speaking of that head-to-head with the big names, early this season there was a lot of aggravation. There was a lot of talk, and from both camps. We have not seen these two on track very often in the second half of the season. These two being Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson.
Unfortunately, that stat doesn't bode as well for Hamlin because Larson's kind of held up his end, winning a couple races already in the playoffs. You heard Denny even mention it. I asked him what it was like to be in the postseason.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. I mean, that tells you that these first 6 races have just been abnormal for the 11 car. Their approach, their execution, such a methodical group. But the other thing I heard, I know Denny very well. I've been around him for years. There was not a lot of lightheartedness. He answered the questions. He was very, nice and cordial to the fans that tuned in. But he was very focused. He obligated the interview, but he was ready to get going.
Kyle Larson has had 6 wins this season. 5 of them have come since Denny Hamlin won his last race. That was at Dover, round 11 earlier this year. Denny would love nothing better than to get a win here in Vegas. However, it's one of his JGR teammates out in front to the tune of almost 1.5 seconds. Bell the man.